Okay. Cool. Thank you. And as you just heard, we're recording this meeting as well, so we might be able to give you a copy of it down the road as well. So, but do take notes and do ask questions whenever you feel like asking questions. Okay, let's move to the next slide, Will.
Awesome. Got a bit of a delay on my slide clicking.
Okay.
Good morning, everyone. My name's Will. Pleasure to see you all this morning and your little faces in the boxes. 2020 was all about virtual, and we want to talk more 2021. So obviously last year, we talked to a lot of not-for-profits who were trying to get online very quickly. So they might not have had any processes or systems online. They hadn't managed volunteers online, and it was a really quick turnaround in how can we now get some of those processes online? How can we start engaging virtual volunteers and skilled volunteers? But we've recognized that in 2021, that started to change, and we've seen now volunteers actually really keen to get back in person. Any physical event, physical volunteering is really kicking off now as restrictions ease in certain places, and people are kind of, really taking on that chance to meet people again and interact physically as well. So when we're talking about 2021, we're actually trying to think about, I guess, this new future that we live in. How can we continue to engage virtual volunteering? Because a lot of awesome new things happened last year as we explored virtual volunteering, often for the first time. But we also have to keep in mind, how then can we use physical volunteers as well? How are we doing these hybrid systems? Some people really struggled going online. Some people really excelled, but we're looking forward at how we can continue this growth going forward. So it's a little bit of a webinar. It's a little bit of a discussion to see how you went as well. We'd love to hear from you as well. We'd love to see your faces and see where you're tuning in from. We're trying to practice what we preach in terms of engagement. We might call on certain people and ask them to chime in with their thoughts or what they think, but totally, if you're helping the kids get ready for breakfast this morning and calling in from a busy office, we totally understand. Hi. Yeah, but we'd love to hear from you throughout this webinar. So please leave your video on. Raj is taking notes of the most engaged. He might hand out a free iPad.
My iPad? You're trying to give away my iPad, Will.
No, totally. No, there's no iPad to give out, but we'd still love to see you engaged throughout this session as well.
Cool. Yeah, so like Will said, the 2021 is all about that mixture of virtual and face-to-face. In fact, with a lot of the corporates that we've been talking to, many of the volunteers actually want face-to-face events now, because I think, like most of us, we're getting sick of virtual. However, virtual is still in play, and a lot of things can still be done on virtual, and we've learned a lot of lessons from it. So that's what we're going to be focusing on throughout this course. So next up, I think, is the agenda. Will, do you want to take us through that?
Yeah, so it'll be, again, pretty interactive throughout. We want to have a look at, the difference between transactional volunteering and transformational volunteering, again, with this physical and virtual volunteering in mind. We'll be looking at then the volunteering experience and how we can be supporting our volunteers through that, different types of volunteering and the ways to do that. And then, we'll have a chat about moving forward about what kind of sessions will be helpful, how we can help support you moving forward. All throughout the session, Olivia, the Communiteer Team person that you can see on your screen, she'll be monitoring the chat. Feel free to pop any questions in there. She'll let us know, and she'll be looking out if you have any questions or engagement.
Cool. So next up, actually, I want to see whether we can test everyone's messaging. So if you could all just type in, let us know who you are, which organization you're from, and what you'd like to get out of this session today. Okay, so get onto your chat. Let's get some interaction going. In the meantime, let me introduce Will to you. So Will is our master of onboarding all the not-for-profits onto our platform. He's actually got a teaching background, which is why he's great at lectures and not listening. But he has basically got a lot of information about not-for-profits because he's the one who actually helps get all the information out onto the platform, get the projects up there, making sure that you're writing it in the right way, and understanding what your volunteer needs are. So he's become quite an expert on not-for-profit volunteering, actually. The other thing that he does is make sure that you have that good engagement with the volunteers as well. So you'll probably see him on some of the consulting tools where he actually conducts how to get onto our platform as well. And if you haven't gone to the platform, that's something that you can ask us after this call as well.
Thanks, Raj. Yeah, so for those who haven't met me, you'll meet me towards the end of the process as we're looking to really find out how you can use the Communiteer platform to find volunteers and skilled volunteers. But early on in the process, you'll quite likely meet Raj. He is one of our wise sages of Communiteer. He's one of he heads up our consultant team. So for every not-for-profit that comes onto Communiteer, we offer a free consultation, about 45 minutes, where you can chat to Raj or one of his consultants about what their organization's needs are. So Raj has lots of experience in the not-for-profit industry, has worked in high levels in a series of not-for-profits, and he uses that information to help figure out how a skilled volunteer is going to help your organization. So if you haven't taken up that offer yet, would highly recommend you get to spend 45 minutes with this man. Can't say no to that. And he'll provide some insights into how you can be using skilled volunteers as well.
Oh, thanks, Will.
I haven't checked the chat. Who do we have here today? Sam from Disaster Relief Australia. Awesome. So glad to have you here. Jordan from Oxfam in Melbourne. Excellent. For those who don't know, Raj and I are from Sydney. That's where our office is. For those in Sydney, it's in North Sydney, Lindfield. But our team kind of comes from all around Sydney. Who else do we have?
Kate from Briefline as well.
Excellent.
Who's on our platform. I know we're looking for volunteers for you.
Yeah, I'm seeing a few names that I recognize. Awesome. Maggie, glad to see you again. Yeah. Exodus Youth Works. Chris from RSPCA Victoria, lovely to see you here today.
Yep, and we got Kate who's preparing breakfast. Cool. So Will, you want to take us through this first?
Awesome. I would love to. So as I said, we'll be looking at the volunteering journey. So I just wanted to quickly chat about some two distinctions. We're trying to move away from what we think of as transactional volunteering. So many of us are from volunteering involving organizations, the ones who use the volunteers. And it's important with the mindset of using the volunteers and how we communicate with them will really be the difference between transactional volunteering and transformational volunteering. So we want to make sure that we're viewing the volunteers and communicating with them in a way that really shows a defined difference between these two experiences. And we'll look at some stories, some case studies from Raj and my own experiences and some of the not-for-profits that we talk to about what the difference is between these two types of volunteering and what the different outcomes are as well. So we've got transactional volunteering, which is really like a transaction, like you give me this and I'll give you this. Whereas transformational volunteering, we're really looking at the way volunteers can transform your organization, and the volunteers' lives will also be changed with the way that they view volunteering and view your organization as well.
Cool. So right now, let me tell you a story. And I'm telling it from a third person. It's not me, but I'm going to tell it like it is from me. So I was in the office, and in the office is this guy called Bill. And Bill is really excited about the not-for-profit he works in. And he always keeps asking me about joining an opportunity or coming in and helping out with this not-for-profit. I am a good guy. I think I am. I do donate to charities, but I just feel, yeah, it takes up too much of my time, and I don't want to really get involved with the charity. So one day I was in the pantry, I was trying to get my coffee. I wasn't really awake, and Bill was chatting on about his charity, and I was going, yeah, yeah, yeah. And sometimes we do that because we're not really tuned in, but we're just going, yeah. And suddenly he goes, yep, I'll see you on Saturday. And I was going, wait, what did I say yes to? Uh, and I realized I was supposed to help him paint some house on a Saturday at 9 o'clock in the morning. I can't sleep in, but I couldn't back out of it. So I said, okay, Saturday, 9 o'clock. Okay, I'll be there. So Saturday rocks up. I go get my coffee from the cafe. It's about 9 o'clock, but that's fine. I'm a skilled volunteer going in to help out. They should be appreciating what I do. So if I rock up a bit late, that's fine. So at 9:15, I rock up my coffee. I knock on the door, and someone opens it and go, "Hey, where's Bill?" And he goes, "Yep, Bill's back down around the corner." So I went, "Hey, Bill, yep, I'm here." He goes, "Great. Uh, why don't you put on this corporate T-shirt?" And then I go put it on, come back, and then he goes, "What we need you to do is basically help taping the stairs so they can paint it." And I go, "Okay, yep, sweet, do that." So I go paint, tape up the staircase. I finish that, and then I come back to Bill and go, "Hey, Bill, I've done it." And he goes, "Look, why don't you help the couple of ladies out there who are washing the windows as well?" And I go, "Okay." And he says, "Look, we'll be having a debrief at about 12. So we'll see you then." And I say, "Yep, sweet." And I go out, help the ladies wash the windows. And I'm looking at the watch going, oh, damn it, it's about 11-ish. But I've got my lunch with my friends, and I should actually go meet them because, I don't want to miss out on that. So I tell the ladies, "Look, thanks, been sweet. Been having a lot of fun here, but I'm just going to get Bill and tell him I got to get off." And I tell Bill, "Look, thanks for it. Great experience." And Bill goes, "Hey, thanks for your time." And I say, "Great." And I walk out of there. Now that's experience number one. Now I'm going to rewind again to the point where I accepted it. Coffee, yeah, yeah, yeah. Oh, damn it, I'm going to be painting walls on Saturday. And I rock up at 9:15, and again, knock on the door, walk in, find Bill, and Bill goes, "Hey, glad that you made it. I'm so appreciative that you've come. You're going to make a huge impact. Here's a corporate T-shirt. Why don't you go change? At 9:30, we're going to have a brief. So yeah, join us in the kitchen." So I go change my T-shirt. I come back out. I see a few people working, and then I go into the kitchen where everyone's heading to. And then Bill comes up and he goes, "Okay, guys, look, first of all, I would really like to thank you all for coming because this charity, which is Blue Line Foundation, is a charity that works with kids and actually teenagers who have been thrown out of their homes. So what's happened is that these children come from broken families. Sometimes one of the parents might be a drug addict, or one of them might have been thrown into jail, and a lot of them in roaming the streets. So what we do is we get them in, we come up with a whole training program, and then put them back into either studying or back into employment. And this gives them a chance to actually, restart their lives. But the most important thing is that you're here and you're going to make a difference. And let me introduce you to the head of the charity. And at this time, he brings in Paul. And Paul goes, "Look, guys, first of all, thank you guys for all being here because, the impact that you're going to make is just unbelievable. The thing is, you might think that, painting the wall does not have any impact. But we're talking about kids who have been shunned away and thrown out of everything and think that basically they're worthless. And the reason we actually make sure that every batch that comes in has a new house, repainted, and everything is cleaned and made proper is because we want to make sure that they feel that their life means something. So when they come in and they say, "Hey, so much effort is being done about, uh, preparing for us and making sure that we have a good time here," means that my life has got value, and people do value who I am and what I am and what I can do. And that gives them the impetus to actually restart their lives and put more effort in saying, "Hey, I can make a difference and I can do something as well." And then Bill comes back on and goes, okay, guys, these are the assignments for today. Points to me and goes, yeah, Raj, you're going to be, taping up the staircase. Basically, the head of the staircase side is going to be Deborah. So if you got any issues, yeah, ask Deborah. And then we all head off and we do our stuff. While I'm taping up, Bill comes up and goes, hey, how's it going? What did you think? And I go, wow, I didn't know that, taping up and painting a house can make such a big difference onto someone's lives. And he goes, yeah, the impact that we make is just, outstanding. So don't think of it as, look, I'm just painting a wall. You're making that huge difference in someone's lives. Anyway, I finish up taping and I go back to Bill and I go, look, I finished taping up. And he goes, hey, why don't you go chat to the woman over there and help them wash the windows? And I go, oh, great. Yeah, let me do that. So jump onto the window duty. And, I was chatting to the two ladies that were with me and going, can you imagine being out on the street and what that could be for someone? And I didn't realize, doing something like this can be so life-changing as well. And then I look at my watch and I go, oh yeah, it's about 11:30 now. I should meet my friends. But Bill said, there's a debrief. And yeah, I really should go for that one. So we rock up to the debrief. And Bill basically comes up again and goes, guys, you've done a great job. I can't thank you enough for being here. I'm sure when the kids come in, they're just going to love this place and this is going to be such a big impact on them. But I would like to now ask you guys, how did you find this? What's your experience? What did you think about it? What did you gain from it? And then, that made me think, what did I think about this whole experience? Did I change my mind about, what different people are going through and, how I can impact other people's lives? And I should also look at life from a different perspective as well. And then I go off to lunch with my friends. And guess what? The topic of discussion it was all about Blues Foundations and what they do with the kids and what kind of impact we can make from a simple thing like painting. And then I go home later on that day and I get my kids out. Okay, I don't have kids, but in this story I do. So I get my kids out and I go, hey kids, let's have dinner. And guess what the topic's about again? It's about how they're so lucky. Their lives are very different from others out there on the street, and how we can make a difference in their lives as well. And if I go back to work, I'm going to be like Bill as well. I'm going to be talking to people and saying, hey, why don't you come and work out at Blue Foundation, right? So those are two different experiences that a volunteer can have. And that's what we're talking about between transformational and transactional. And right now, I would like to just open to the floor to ask you, what did you see as the differences between story 1 and story 2? Anyone out there, put up your hand, or you can write a message, but just, even with just a one word thing, just let me know what you thought was the difference between story 1 and story 2.
There was more engagement with the volunteer in story 2.
Yep, definitely. That's
more
right.
Genuine interaction.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that's what we're trying to do. We need that engagement with the volunteers. We try not to see them as an asset. We're trying to see them as a human, and what is it about it why is it they're joining us, and trying to make the experience a bit better. That's right, Kate. Yep. Understanding how the volunteer is making a difference, where they fit. Yeah, so that whole story about how they are making a difference in other people's lives, like why they're doing this, the why factor is very important. A lot of times, what you'll find is when a volunteer comes, we're focused on the task and we're telling them, hey, we need to get this done ASAP. But we're not figuring out why they're doing this task. And even on our platform, sometimes we do ask the not-for-profits to try and link the task that they're doing with the organization, the impact that you're going to make for the organization. Because as a person, when I come in, I want to see what difference I'm going to make, and not just, oh, I completed this task within this time, or I've done this many things within this time. It's more about what have I made in terms of a difference to someone else. And sometimes the tasks I'm doing, let's say I'm coming in, like a lot of us, in terms of the skill-based volunteering, are doing things like, let's say, accounting or marketing and all that. We might not see the direct impact of that onto the beneficiaries, and we've got to pull that back in as well. Okay. Any other ideas out there? Feel free to jump on the call as well.
Hi, it's Lee from South Australia. How are you?
Hey Lee, how are you going?
I'm good. Yeah, sorry, I'm just driving, so I'm listening and I'm engaging. I just wanted to say, with the stories, with the disaster relief as well with Sam. And I've just come back from a deployment in New South Wales, helping the communities rebuild after bushfire disaster. And with our organisation, we really focus on our members in particularly, because a lot of them are veterans and had that experience of feeling part of a team and purpose, and then they've lost the purpose. So we kind of provide purpose back into their lives. And with regards to the story, the important thing that I took out of that was that Bill had gone home and told his family, has told his friends, had spread the word that way. And I feel that that's a good way of communicating, because you're actually engaging with people, enthusing people to want to do something good, but also you've inspired that person to do something good as well. So that's kind of what I took out of that.
Yeah, that's perfect. Because the whole point about the transformational is you're trying to change that volunteers aspect of I'm just coming in to do something to I'm going to be a part of this organization's journey. I'm going to share their story. I'm going to build awareness around that not-for-profit that I've been a part of as well. And it's not so much of I've just contributed 3 hours of my time. I might now become part of their story as well. And once they engage into your story and become part of you as in part of your family, then you've got an asset for life. And that's what we're trying to do with all the volunteers, is try and move them from, I'm just coming in to do 3 hours of work. And often you find some of the volunteers, especially if you're talking about corporate volunteers, might have been forced to come in and do a job because the company says, yeah, go in and do something. But if you treat them as just that person coming and doing a task, you're not looking at the potential value in that person as well. And what we're trying to move it is to a point where they go, look, I love this organization. I want to do more for it as well, right? The other thing we're trying to do is change their shift their way of thinking about an organization as well, or the beneficiaries. Because a lot of time they don't see things in the same way that the beneficiaries do, or the not-for-profits do, or the charities do, right? Because their point of view is also skewed. They don't understand that this example of painting a house can make such an impact on someone, because they take these kind of things for granted. In fact, when they come in and paint the house, they're going, why are we painting this house? It seems to be like a waste of time. And I use paint the house because there's a lot of corporate volunteering opportunities out there where sometimes charities just trying to find something for the volunteer to do, and they paint houses. And it becomes really mundane and people go, paint a house again. But if you change the story and make it about how they're going to change someone's lives or how they're going to make an impact, then they're going to see this whole process differently. And they're also going to see the beneficiaries' lives a bit differently and how they're going to impact that beneficiary's life, right? The other thing about this, any other comments before I move on? Okay, cool. The other thing about story is notice that everyone was actually thanking the volunteer as well. And that's also very important, is to show gratitude to the volunteer. Bear in mind that volunteer is coming in and like the beginning of the first story, he's coming in, even the second story, he's coming in because, you know, he didn't know what to expect, but he's coming in and giving his time. He feels, look, I'm someone who's a professional. I'm giving up my time. I'm not going to get anything in return. So you got to make him feel like, hey, you know, we really appreciate that. And whatever you're doing, it's a contribution that we really appreciate. So that thank you is very important. And that's another example that I can show. Like we recently had a volunteer, Vijay. Will, you want to tap on what he shared? Yeah, so he recently on our platform conducted, I think he's in web development and web design, and he basically did their whole website for the Fiji book drive, right? And what he got was a drawing from one of the kids in Fiji to thank him for it, and a note from the CEO as well to say, hey, thanks a lot for doing this. Vijay is one of our top volunteers. He actually spent like 80 hours developing websites for, I think, 2 or 3 different charities or not-for-profits. But the thing is, once he got that, he shared that on LinkedIn. And if you look down there, he had like, I think 30 odd likes and comments coming in. The thing about his LinkedIn, what that got is more people understanding, the work that he's doing. And even if you look at the comments and all that, Fiona, who's the founder and CEO of Fiji Book Drive, added on to that as well. So that connection becomes even more apparent. And what you're trying to do is build that relationship between yourself and that volunteer. So don't look at it as, oh, thank you for coming that day and goodbye, but keep building that relationship with the volunteer as well. Okay. Okay, next slide. Yeah. So going through any experience that you have or the volunteer experience, there's 3 parts to this. Will, do you want to take us through this? Or was it me?
Sorry, just on mute. Yeah, totally. So I guess like with the stories that we noticed, it wasn't the difference in what the volunteer actually did. There's still outcomes, I guess, were the same. He still just taped up the stairs and painted and washed the windows. But the difference was really in how the volunteer understood the situation, understood the organization. So there were kind of 3 distinct parts to the story that really changed this volunteer's experience. We had the brief, we had the actual volunteer experience, and we had the debrief. And these weren't there or weren't as clear in the first story. So by starting with the brief, you actually are automatically shifting your focus from how well or how quickly we can get these tasks done. You're shifting your focus instead towards who is this task for and how will it benefit them. So you may have noticed that he was late on both occasions. So maybe they did have a brief at the beginning of the first story, but he missed it. But by pausing once everyone was there, giving this distinct brief in telling them what are they actually doing, who are they actually helping, that meant that all the volunteers there, we only heard from Bill, but I'm sure all the volunteers were then inspired to do these fairly mundane tasks, right? They suddenly knew what their purpose was, and that brief helped shape the rest of the experience, even though that potentially took away, say 15 to 20 minutes of each volunteer's time. They each could have done a little bit more, but that brief allowed them to set up that experience in the best way. So then going into the volunteering experience, once they've had that brief.
Just jumping in here. Sorry,
yeah, totally.
The other thing about the brief is a lot of times, especially in the face-to-face briefs, we tend to have the brief right at the start. And a good thing that you should practice is maybe delay the brief a bit. So you can start things going, but have the actual brief maybe half an hour later. What you'll find is, especially the ones who are new to volunteering, who come late and might miss out on the brief and not get the full picture. And these are the ones you're really trying to target, the ones who are forced to come to volunteer or are just coming to explore. They're the ones you really need the brief for. Okay.
Yeah, thanks, Raj. Conducted was really through the check-ins. I'm not sure if you realized, but Bill throughout that second story had regular check-ins. His friend actually wasn't performing the task. He was actually going around and checking on each of the volunteers, ensuring that they were having a that they knew what they were supposed to be doing, that they knew how to progress. There wasn't that confusion or walking around, not really sure what to do next. And this applies, yeah, totally in virtual volunteering, in physical volunteering, but is much more difficult in virtual volunteering, which is what we've seen, particularly with our online platform. The check-in can be quite natural. You can have someone dedicated to that in the physical volunteering space. So you can have your volunteer manager actually only doing, say, 50% of what they could be doing, so that they have that time to go around, make sure each volunteer is engaged, feels comfortable. Whereas with virtual volunteering, those online check-ins they have to be really structured, or you have to be conscious about it. It doesn't really happen without you making conscious decisions. So things like making sure, even though this volunteer VJ was talking to the Australian team, the CEO who was in Fiji at the time actually wrote the letter and talked to the kids about what he was doing as well. So those really intentional of checking in, whether that's virtual or physical, are really important in making sure that volunteer experience is really, really different. Raj, do you have anything to add to that one?
Yeah, so the thing that we're trying to put here is we're trying to treat the volunteer as the client. And we're shifting the focus now, right? The volunteer is really your client, and you're trying to give him a good experience. And how do I make him have a good experience so he keeps coming back and he wants to do more for me? And that's what you got to start thinking. So with different volunteers, you're going to find they're in different parts of their journey in volunteering, and you got to understand that, and we'll go through that in the next slide. But the whole point is, how do I make your experience good? I have to understand you. I have to understand why you're coming to volunteer and what you want to get out of it. So these are things you check in with as well, like, who are you, where you're from, why are you doing this, what do you want to get out of it? And let me come up with something which you will go away going, this was a great experience and I want to do it again. And
yeah, for sure. And then the debrief, it actually did happen in the first story, but it was because the brief and the volunteer experience weren't as clear and weren't as structured that he actually left without sticking around for the debrief. So you can see how each step of this journey is really important. But in the debrief, that actually allowed him to reflect on his experience, and that turned him from, I guess, we'll use the terms like tourist volunteer later on, from really a tourist just like dragged along, not really sure what he was doing, into this advocate who was going and telling his friends about his experience. So actually giving them a chance to think about, has your mindset changed? Because he might have not actually tracked he might have not realized how at the beginning he felt and the difference between that and the end, but actually gave them a space to think about, what did they experience? Was it what they expected? How has that experience actually changed them? And because we've nailed the brief, because we've nailed the volunteering experience, we've been checking in, we've been guiding that experience, that debrief is a really powerful way to bring that all together, make that effort really worth it, and help the volunteer become that advocate moving forward.
So at the debrief, what we're basically trying to get to the volunteers is, we always ask these two questions. What did you experience? And was it what you expected? So we're turning it back to them. What did you experience? So sometimes they might come and go, oh yeah, I managed to paint 3 walls in the 3 hours. But that's not the important bit. Let them say those kind of things and that's fine. But what we want to know is, how did this experience change you, or change your way of thinking, or change what you expected out of this whole experience, right? So we're trying to get them to then think about, hey, yeah, has this changed my way of doing things or thinking about things? And would I do this again as well? Has it given me that impetus to do something more? So again, to them, don't look at it as a task, look at it as, I'm building someone's ability to volunteer more, in that sense. And a lot of times we actually forget it, even in the real life, when you talk about work and all that, we focus on the task, but we sometimes forget why we're doing the task and why we should be thinking about how to improve that task as well. By doing this, what's the benefit of this? Who's going to get what out of this? Because that reshapes how you look at the task as well. So with volunteering as well, change how we look at volunteers. A lot of times we're looking at them as coming in, doing something. And sometimes that's another reason behind it, right? It's because we want the corporate involvement in other things as well. But think about, if I get the volunteer in, you're going to get that corporate involvement in the long run. But if the volunteers all have a bad experience or don't think this is worth their time, then that whole relationship building with the volunteer and with the corporate as well tends to go down the road a bit more. So this builds it up a lot faster for you. Yep, we were talking about the different stages of a volunteer, and this is a great thing because we can't travel now. So let's take everyone else on a journey. So volunteers, like the first story that I said, the guy, well, actually both stories, the guy is basically what we call a tourist. He's coming in for a casual experience. He's figuring out what this whole thing is all about. He's not really into volunteering, but he's trying to see if this is something that could be interesting and something that could benefit him, right? So look at him as a tourist, has no idea about the country, trying to figure out, yeah, is this something I like? Is this something worth exploring more? And if he has a good experience, then what you're going to do is move him along that journey to become a guide. So in that first stage, you got to give him a lot more care and a lot more guidance and a lot more gratitude, and think about what he's getting out of it as well, right? So think of him as a new staff, a new recruit. How would you induce him into your company? How would I bring in a new person into my organization? I've got to make sure that he understands what the organization is about, what the culture is about, how he's going to benefit from it, and how he will change other people's lives around him as well, right? So think of all that when you get a newbie. And this is something you got to figure out as well. Is this guy coming in a tourist, or is he further down the volunteer track? Because then the experience that they need is also a bit different. So with the first one, yeah, you engage. It's more about making sure that he has a rewarding experience. From there, they move on to becoming a traveler. Now, this is someone who's visited the first country. He goes, hey, that was a great experience. Let me go to another country because I want to see more. I want to experience more, right? So he's ready now to do more for the organization, right? And you can look at him as probably someone who can also lead. So you can give him more supervisor sort of roles within the organization, where he might be leading a few volunteers as well. And this is where he's taking on more responsibility. He's increasing his commitment towards the not-for-profit. And the thing is, he also might get a bit more bored. So you got to challenge him a bit more. And that's why you're giving him a bit more responsibility as well. Okay. And once you get someone in that stage, then the next hop is even easier, because then you're going to get someone who is a guide. He's traveled the world, he's seen everything, and now he's going, hey, I got to get more tourists on to see the world. And at this point, what you're going to get is a volunteer who believes that he is benefiting more from volunteering than the beneficiaries are. And I'm sure you've all got volunteers like that in your organizations, right? You've met someone who goes, he's just like a staff member. He thinks that by doing this, and I've got experiences of that, the same thing, right? When I volunteer, I don't think I'm helping others. I'm actually feeling that I'm helping myself. I believe I'm changing myself. I'm bettering myself. And when you get a volunteer thinking like that, where the benefit of volunteering is to myself, because I've changed in terms of the way I perceive the world, in terms of how I see myself. I've changed my karma as well. Then you've got someone hooked in, and this is someone who's going to start the organization as well. You become that build person who goes into the office and goes, hey, why don't you come paint with me? Anything to add there, Will? Any questions out there? Do you guys have volunteers like that in your organization? The guides?
It's Lee here.
Yep, Lee.
Yeah, so we do have a range. I think that we're aiming towards more guides, but I suppose through their experiences, they're actually kind of promoting the organization as well, which is great. And they'll just invest as much time as they can, and gather as many people as they can, because they've been inspired. And like you say, I love the acronyms that you use with regards to the traveler, and the actual becoming a guide. I love that kind of analogy, and it makes it clearer and understand kind of what journey people go through to get to where they want to be. So yeah, I think that's great.
Yeah, so that's perfect. And I just want to bring up Chris's point. Most are regular volunteers, but not corporate volunteers. The thing is, most corporate volunteers will be your tourist. You'll get a few guides, you'll get a few travelers, but the majority of corporate volunteers are going to be a tourist. And the idea is to bring them to that journey, to bring them, to make them guides. Because if you get a whole lot of corporate volunteers who are your guides, guess what they're going to do in the company? Guess how they're going to influence the policies of that company? They're going to be shouting your name at every meeting. They're going to be saying, hey, why are we not sponsoring this not-for-profit? Why are we not doing more for this not-for-profit? Every time there's a corporate engagement program or a CSR initiative, guess which not-for-profit name is going to come up? The more guides you have in a corporate entity, the more that guide is going to fight for you and make sure that you get what you need. And he will understand what your not-for-profit needs as well. So he's going to bring that up. Oh, that's great, Matt. So Matt is now, well, not just the guide, but he's also the head chef. Okay, so all that brings us back to the transactional versus transformative, and I'll let Will take you through this slide.
Yeah, so in the interest of time, I'll keep this one brief. I think we've really gotten a good picture through the stories in our conversations. Basically, yeah, the transactional volunteering, you could kind of see it a little bit in the first story. It's really asset-centered, really looking at what the volunteer could do for you or what you could get out of this volunteer, and whether that is really manual in terms of an extra pair of hands to paint stairs, or in VJ's case, you could be a really transactional-based thing of you fix our website, that's awesome, thanks to that. They didn't have to engage further, but this transformative volunteering was really human-centered. It was looking at the growth of the volunteer. The focus is on the volunteer rather than the task. And the impacts didn't necessarily change as much between the stories, again, the amount that he did on the day, but the primary impact was the change in the individual, in the volunteer. And the better we treat this human, the better we make their experience, the asset comes along with that. Anyways, I wanted to spend just a little bit of time talking about a specific case that I've seen recently. It was actually on the Communiteer platform, and I just thought it was a really good picture of this transformational volunteering experience, because like I said, with virtual volunteering, everything to get this positive experience a little bit more planned and a little bit more specific, because here we have Katie Rose Cottage Hospice. They are a wonderful organization. They actually engage almost 300 volunteers. So they're just based in Queensland. They're in palliative care, so they have a lot of carers. They're really community focused, and they are an awesome organization. They recently, for Volunteers Week, went out for lawn bowls. If that's not good volunteer engagement, I don't know what is. It was they had heaps of people there, heaps of their volunteers aspect. They're really, I'm sure everyone going there really feels like they're part of the organization almost. And they've really worked hard to recognize their volunteers and engage them regularly. This is one of many events that they do to show their appreciation for their volunteers. volunteers. So they started with this on research and source fundraising, CRM database. There's obviously suitable for a not-for-profit organization. So you can look at that and think that is a little bit drier than what they're used to. The really care and social support element of their organization. You could complete this opportunity and not feel an ounce of that social support or care. You're really helping their back ends. You're helping their systems, but you wouldn't actually have any contact with their clients or who they're helping. But Rebecca Archer, a wonderful volunteer that we have, who's actually from Queensland as well, decided, yep, this is something I can work on. And they were still an hour and a half away from each other, so it was still a virtual volunteering opportunity. But she had those skills, so then signed up to this opportunity and completed the opportunity. But I just wanted to share with you some feedback that we got from Rebecca after this opportunity that, like I said, potentially could have been a bit drier. So this is from Beck. She actually said that she actually went to Noosa and met the Katie Rose team a few weeks after she completed this opportunity. So she did all the research online. She met with them on Zoom. And then once they'd wrapped that up, she actually took the time to go out to Noosa, meet the team. And they also, she also continued with the whole process, getting a demo session with a software company, confirming the database was suitable. And you can see that she thought it was an awesome experience, and she's likely to work together again soon, which I think is that image of becoming that guide, becoming someone who's like, I actually don't know what they need, but whatever it is, I'll be there to help them from now on. So that shows this really positive volunteering experience. And this is, again, from a corporate volunteer. So they've really nailed that process. There was a really clear brief, even though it wasn't actually related to their clients. She could see how this was helping their organization, how it was going to help their volunteers, and this debrief, like, in person. I think that's awesome. She actually would have had to travel an hour and a half to get there. So it really shows the experience of that volunteer. And she was, really all about virtual volunteering. It's a good reminder. She needs it more often. She's ready to keep going. She's been transformed. So I wanted to talk a little bit about the different types of volunteering experiences. So here we have what we would have called a project-based approach is what Rebecca would have actually done. She would have taken on this specific task. She really knew the scope of it. She knew about how long it would take. So she started with that. But what we can see is that these volunteers who start with a really specific task, they could finish after a couple of minutes, not after a couple of minutes, after a few hours of volunteering, working with this, completing the task. They could end the relationship there and find a new project with a new organization. Whereas the role-based really starts with the who, that's the recurring volunteering. So we've had a couple of questions about how do we ask for volunteers to keep coming back? How do we ask for this long-term volunteering experience? But often what's the case with Rebecca and what's happened multiple times on our platform is that people start with the project base. They start with this simple task, something that they have skills in. And they complete this task and they've worked with the team and they realize that they don't want to give this up. This is an awesome relationship that they've formed, and they actually turn that into a role-based opportunity. They start volunteering an hour a week or checking in every month to see how they can help. And that fosters this ongoing engaged relationship. So if we're nailing this, online, we call it project-based approach. In person, it might be a single event. It might be painting a building. If we really nail this experience, really nail the brief, the check-ins, the debrief, then we can actually build a whole army of role-based volunteers who really will advocate for us and actually keep coming back to your organization. Raj, I think you're on mute, mate.
Great, another life lesson. So basically, project-based and role-based follow on from your event-based volunteering. So event-based do things for events where you might collect tickets or sit down at reception and stuff like that. That's your initial sort of experiences. But what we're finding with the corporate volunteers is they can move straight into project-based projects because a lot of them have got skills, right? And the way we look at it is, if you're basically approaching corporates, look at it as you've got a whole range of different skill sets out there, and what skill sets you need to improve your organization. And right now, what we'll do is a little poll to let you guys think, what kind of skill sets might you need in your organization to basically boost it up, where your objectives are and what kind of skill sets can you bring in to boost that. So it could be like accounting, like if you're looking for charity status and stuff like that, you might want someone to come in and help you audit, or you might want a whole new marketing strategy done. So feel free to pick as many of the options as possible. We just want to see what kind of skill sets you think might be possible. Yeah, with corporates, think of the skills, because that's how you're going to get them engaged. And with a lot of not-for-profits, you might not realize that these are people you can bring in, and in the long term, you might have a part-time staff without expanding your resources. Okay, do as a result? Yeah, you want to share it? Yeah. Yeah, so we've got from here, the top ones are human resource, data analytics, and marketing communication. And that's great. And with human resources, you can even think of your volunteer engagement as well. A lot of the projects that we've come up with for human resource was actually about how we onboard and recruit the volunteers, make sure that their experience is good as well. And a lot of people do tend to forget that their volunteer can be used for a lot more than what they're volunteering for. So when you come in as a volunteer, a lot of them go, okay, you paint the wall and you go home. But if you have a proper onboarding as well, what you might find is you can bring them in terms of your social media and your marketing side. Like whenever you have an event, you can use them as a mouthpiece as well. Data analytics is quite big as well, and marketing communication is also actually one of our top ones that we have here on the platform. So if you look at the platform, these are the ones that are up there. Marketing seems to be common on both of them. I see a lot more of you have chosen human resources and data analytics than we have on our platform. But that's good, because that means you realize, we should be seeing an equal sort of numbers for all of them, but it's just that a lot of not-for-profits might not realize how they can use it. And this is something I want you to think about as well in terms of engaging the volunteers on our platform. What do you need from them? And the other thing I would say as well, like some people say, okay, I do not need these kind of skill sets. I might need someone who's working on the weekday 9 to 5. And we do have university students as well who help us out. In fact, all the consultations are done by university students for us here, who are MBA students. And that could be another source of the kind of volunteers you might need to help support your organization. And if you get them young, they stay on for a longer time. So think about uni students as well as a good asset. In fact, the person who's organizing our whole event today, Olivia, give a wave. Oh, you got to say something. Oh, okay. Yep, that's Olivia. Yeah, so she's also a recent graduate who's with us and enjoying her work here, which is why she's still with us. So think about how you can tap on different resources to use them for the task side, but also how to develop them into your guides. Okay. And if you've got any questions about the platform and the skills we have there and how the skills can match you, then do have a chat with us and we'll help you down the journey, how to shape that as well. Because we've got lots of skills on the platform and a lot of volunteers. In fact, we've got 1,800 volunteers on our platform waiting to do something with every one of you as well. So think about how you can use them and how you can develop them into a resource. And that way also get the corporates in. Because like we said earlier, if you focus on the human or the volunteer, you will get all the assets that they bring along with them. So think of that as a long-term journey kind of thing. Next, I'm going to actually hand it on to Maddie. Maddie is actually our marketing person, and she does an awesome job, not just marketing Communiteer, but actually marketing the not-for-profits, and there's a lot of ways that you can do that as well. So Maddie, take it away.
Hello, everyone. So yeah, I'm going to talk a little bit about our campaigns and what we actually use through marketing to spotlight our not-for-profits, talk about all the good work that you do, but actually hone in on specific cause areas so that we can kind of pull together the resources that we have to build enduring communities. So Communiteer runs campaigns based on the SDGs. So you'll see a couple on the slide here. So we've got Take Climate Action, which we did on SDG 13. And we're also looking at one for SDG 4 and 8 called Pathway to Employment. So these focus on bringing opportunities for not-for-profits in these particular cause areas, allowing them to build an enduring community of businesses and volunteers around them, and then creating greater social impact at the end of the day. So eventually we want to create a cause-based community around each of these SDGs, and it makes it an easier experience for individuals to give their time and skills. So not-for-profits will find greater visibility with people and businesses that care most about these particular causes. They'll be able to share stories to build social awareness of the public, and also have their projects spotlighted in regular activities that we run on and off platform. So recently we did the Take Climate Action Community. We finished up just at the end of May. And we brought together 36 not-for-profits during that time period. We brought in 3 businesses and also 335 supporters to focus on SDG 13 climate action. So the outcomes that came out of this were really that we created these champion volunteers, businesses, and individuals that just wanted to focus on helping not-for-profits in this cause. So currently we're working on our Pathway to Employment campaign, and we're actually bringing in the universities as another group amongst this to work on those skilled volunteering projects. So we're hoping to support the students in giving them the skills and experience that they need to go out into the world, and also resourcing the not-for-profits to across the board working in education and employment. So anywhere from children in poverty to supporting refugee and migrant employment services, anything across the board in those cause areas, but specifically using the universities to help us out. We also have the businesses providing a mentorship role. So I guess, your first concern with students is the lack of experience, but we're actually having mentors to guide the quality control and also give the students a better learning experience as well. So I'll just pop a link in the chat here. And if you want to have any more, see any more information or read any of our flyers, please do. And there's a spot there to get in touch. But it's quite a broad range of causes that we're accepting into education and employment. And we're just really trying to group all the resources for a particular area and I guess just really at the end of the day, create greater social impact. And we'll just slowly make our way around all 17 SDGs. I'll pass it back to Raj.
Cool, that's great, Maddie. So like Maddie says, we run these campaigns every 3 to 6 months, and we really want to focus on the different not-for-profits and the causes they have. And even if you're not looking for volunteers, you could actually look for it as a marketing piece as well, where we try and promote the cause and the stories that you have as well. So look at us as, more than just one sort of thing that you can do with us. So I think that brings us to the end of our session, Will.
Yeah, totally. Sorry for running over time, everyone. I know you're all incredibly busy, but thank you so much for your time today. We will be sending out a little bit of a feedback form, so please let us know if you have any further questions, anything that you would like to see in a future webinar. Supporting those not. Yeah, so please let us know if you have any questions, but we'd love to see you again.
Cool. Thanks, everyone. See you all. And we do appreciate any feedback that comes our way, so do send it to us.
Have a good day.
Appreciate it.
No worries.
Thanks,
Sam.
Sam. Thanks for tuning in.